Every race weekend, without fail, social media does the same thing. A penalty gets handed out or a decision gets made. Within minutes, thousands of people are typing the same three letters into their keyboards. FIA. The FIA is corrupt. The FIA ruined my race. The FIA is just FIFA, but for cars. And look, I get it. Emotions are high, racing is passionate. But here's the thing that nobody talks about. Most of those people have absolutely no idea what the FIA actually is or does. And today, we're going to fix that. Because once you understand what this organization truly does, how it's built, how it runs, how it survives financially, you're going to look at those posts very differently. Welcome back. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and bell icon to never miss another video. Today's topic is one I've wanted to cover for a long time because the FIA is one of the most misunderstood organizations in the world of sport, not just by new fans, but by people who've been watching for years. By the end of this video, you will have a better understanding of the FIA than 95% of the people who tweet about it every single weekend. The Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile, founded in 1904, same year as FIFA. Before World War I, before commercial aviation, when cars were still a novelty that terrified horses. The FIA is a non-profit association headquartered in Paris, France. And this is the first thing most people get wrong. It is not a corporation. It is not a business trying to maximize profits. It is a federation. Think of it like a governing umbrella, a global body that exists to regulate and promote motorsport and road safety across the entire planet. Currently, the FIA has over 240 member organizations spread across more than 140 countries. These aren't just racing clubs. They include automobile clubs, organizations that deal with things like roadside assistance, driver licensing standards, and road safety advocacy. Think the AA in the UK, AAA in the United States, ADAC in Germany. These are all FIA members. So already, before we've even mentioned a single racing series, the FIA is doing work that affects hundreds of millions of people who will never watch a single lap of Formula One. But let's talk about the sport side, because that's why most of you are here. F1 fans, especially newer ones, often talk about the FIA as if it exists solely to make decisions about Formula One. As if the entire organization wakes up on a Sunday morning, watches the race, and spends the rest of the week figuring out how to ruin it. Here is the actual list of world championships the FIA governs. Formula 1, Formula 2, Formula 3, Formula E, the World Rally Championship, which takes cars through some of the most brutal terrain on Earth, from snow-covered Sweden to the dusty trails of Kenya. The World Endurance Championship, which includes the 24 Hours of Le Mans, one of the most prestigious motorsport events in existence. The World Rallycross Championship, the World Touring Car Cup, the FIA Formula Truck Racing Series, the Karting World Championship, which is where most of the F1 drivers you love actually started their careers. And that's not even close to a complete list. The FIA also oversees hill climbs, drag racing, autocross, electric rallying, historic motorsport, and more. There are over 30 FIA-sanctioned international series at any given time. So when you say the FIA is messing up F1, you are criticizing a tiny slice of what is a genuinely enormous global operation. One that is running events on every continent in almost every discipline of motorsport simultaneously. Now let's talk about how they physically do all of that, because the structure is actually fascinating. The FIA is led by a president, currently Mohammed Ben Sulayem, who was elected in December 2021, replacing Jean Todt and re-elected in 2025. And yes, the FIA president is elected by the member clubs. It is not a position that is appointed by Liberty Media or any commercial entity. This matters, and we'll come back to it. Below the president, the FIA is divided into two main worlds that work in parallel. The first is the sports side. This is what governs racing. It includes the World Motorsport Council, which is the main decision-making body for sporting regulations. It includes the various commissions, one for single-seaters, one for rally, one for endurance, one for karting, and so on. These commissions are made up of representatives from teams, promoters, national sporting authorities, and independent experts. Decisions about rules, safety standards, and sporting conduct go through these bodies. The second side is the mobility and tourism side. This is the part that deals with road safety campaigns, sustainable mobility, connected and autonomous vehicles, and supporting national automobile clubs in their work with everyday drivers. So the FIA is simultaneously writing the safety regulations that protect an F1 driver at 340 kilometers per hour and campaigning to reduce road deaths in developing countries. Same organization, same umbrella. And now we get to the part of this video that I think will genuinely surprise most of you. Let's talk about the FIFA comparison, because it keeps coming up, and it's instructive, but not in the way most people think. FIFA, the Fédération Internationale de Football Association, is the governing body of world football, and FIFA makes extraordinary amounts of money. The 2022 World Cup cycle generated over $7.5 billion in revenue. The majority of that comes from selling broadcasting rights and sponsorship for one single event, the World Cup, that happens every 4 years. FIFA controls the World Cup completely. They own it, they sell it, they profit from it. Now let's look at F1, the sport that most people assume is the FIA's equivalent cash cow. Here's the thing, the FIA does not own Formula One. Formula One is owned and commercially operated by Liberty Media, an American media and entertainment company. The commercial rights to Formula One are governed by something called the Concord Agreement, a confidential contract between the FIA, the Formula One Group, and the teams. Under this agreement, Liberty Media collects the television deals, the race hosting fees, the sponsorship money, the billions of dollars that F1 generates every year. The FIA, as the regulatory body, receives a sanctioning fee from Formula One. In recent years, estimates have put this at somewhere in the range of just 1% of Formula One's total commercial revenue. We're talking for a sport that generates well over $2 billion a year. The FIA might be taking home somewhere around $30 million. For writing the regulations, supplying the stewards, managing the license, and providing the entire sporting framework that makes the whole thing legal and legitimate. Compare that to FIFA, which takes home the vast majority of the revenue from its own flagship event. So how does the FIA actually fund itself? It comes from several places. Entry fees and sanctioning fees from all of its other championships, WRC, WEC, F2, F3, karting, and the dozens of other series it governs. Membership fees from its 240-plus member clubs, fines and regulatory fees, FIA Institute programs, and income from road safety and mobility initiatives, some of which are supported by international organizations and governments. The FIA is not a wealthy organization by the standards of global sports governance. And that context is critical when you watch fans demanding enormous stewarding departments, full-time technical staff at every event, and perfect decision-making every single weekend. From an organization that is running the entire global motorsport pyramid on a relatively modest budget. Let's spend a moment on the work the FIA does that almost never makes it onto social media, because this is where the real scale of the operation becomes clear. Circuit homologation. Every circuit that hosts an FIA-sanctioned event has to go through a rigorous grading process. The FIA has a grading system from Grade 1, which is required to host Formula One, all the way down to Grade 4 and below, for lower-level events. Inspectors physically visit circuits and assess everything: runoff areas, barrier types, medical facilities, pit lane safety, and spectator safety zones. This is why you don't just build a track in a field and call it an F1 venue. The process takes years. Safety equipment homologation. Every helmet used in FIA-sanctioned motorsport has to meet FIA safety standards. Every Hans device, every suit, every seat. The FIA tests and certifies safety equipment so that when a driver is in a 300 km/h accident, there is a known, validated layer of protection between them and death. Safety and medical car. You know those two cars that are on the track at every Formula One race? That is an FIA operation. The FIA Chief Medical Officer oversees medical standards at every event. The medical delegate, the doctors, the protocols, all FIA. Driver licensing. Every driver who competes in any FIA-sanctioned series, from local karting all the way to Formula One, holds an FIA license. The super license, required for F1, has specific criteria that a driver must meet. A certain number of points accumulated across junior formula, minimum laps in an F1 car, and minimum super license points. This isn't bureaucracy for the sake of it. It ensures that when someone arrives on an F1 grid, they have demonstrably earned the right to be there. So why does any of this matter to you as a fan? Because context changes criticism. There is absolutely nothing wrong with criticizing FIA decisions. Stewarding calls have been inconsistent. Regulatory changes have sometimes felt poorly communicated. The handling of Abu Dhabi 2021 was, to put it diplomatically, not the organization's finest moment. But there is a difference between informed criticism, which pushes the sport forward, and uninformed rage, which just makes noise. When you understand that the FIA president is an elected representative of over 240 national clubs, not a dictator, you think slightly differently about the calls to fire him immediately after one controversial weekend. When you understand that the FIA runs on a fraction of the commercial revenue that F1 generates, you think slightly differently about why stewarding resources or communication teams might not be as well-resourced as you'd like. When you understand that the same organization managing the penalty that annoyed you on Sunday also spent this week certifying a new helmet standard that will save a driver's life in 3 years, you think slightly differently about what the FIA actually represents. This is not a defense of every decision the FIA makes. It is an argument for nuance, for knowing what you're actually talking about before you talk about it. The FIA is an imperfect institution. Every institution is. But it is an institution that has, over 120 years, built the global framework that makes motorsport, all of motorsport, at every level possible. That deserves at least a moment of understanding before the next pylon. So there it is, the FIA, not FIFA for cars, not just an F1 referee, not a corporation trying to squeeze money out of your favorite sport, but a 120-year-old nonprofit federation managing the entire global ecosystem of motorized sport and road safety on a budget that would make most international sports federations laugh. Next time you see the 3 letters trending on social media, and you will, probably within the next 2 weeks, I hope this video is in the back of your mind. If you learned something today, subscribe, because this is exactly the kind of content we make here. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to know. Did any of this surprise you? Did you know the FIA barely makes money from F1? Let me know below, and I'll see you in the next one.